Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to episode 20 in Be With Me. We're in the book of 1 Timothy, and I'm just honored today to bring you this little message because we get to talk about widows today. We get to honor widows. This is from 1 Timothy chapter number 5, verses 3 through 10. Honor widows who are truly widows. He'll define today what a true widow is. Verse 4, but if a widow has children or grandchildren, let them first learn to show godliness to their own household and to make some return to their parents, for this is pleasing in the sight of the Lord. She who is truly a widow, left all alone, has set her hope on God and continues in supplications and prayers night and day. But she who is self-indulgent is dead even while she lives. Command these things well so that they may be without reproach. But if anyone does not provide for his relatives, and especially for members of his household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. Back to a widow now. Let a widow be enrolled if she is not less than 60 years of age, having been the wife of one husband, and having a reputation for good works, if she has brought up children, has shown hospitality, has washed the feet of the saints, and has cared for the afflicted, and has devoted herself to every good work. So we're going to look at what's the definition of a true widow today. We'll look at some of the responsibilities that a widow has, and eventually, probably not today, we will look at what responsibilities that family has to a widow and what the church responsibilities is to a widow. But the overall arching thing today is honoring widow, revering them. And how is that going to result in a practical assistance? So you value them how much? What price are we going to set on widows? Eventually, we're going to have them be enrolled in some financial security net of the church and be cared for by the church in some sort of a practical financial way. But first, we have to define what a widow is. So first of all, and obviously, a widow is without husband. That is, lacking in a husband. And even more than that, bereft of a husband. And I think a good definition is torn from a husband in death. Oh, death, where is your sting? Well, you don't really have to look much further than the widow. So we're asking a woman here, did you do your job as a wife well? And I think good wives don't easily lose their husbands to death. I don't think you just kind of brush your hands and wipe your hands off of a long marriage and the role that you had in a marriage. So I think if you find a wife who is now a widow, I think you want to find a woman that at least initially is pretty shook up by the death, because that might mean she understands Genesis 2:24. A man shall leave his father and mother and hold fast to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. So, my number one definition of a good widow, in a sense, to be a good widow is to have been a good wife. So there's a verse here that says a widow is truly all alone. Verse 5, she who is truly a widow, left all alone, has set her hope on God. So truly a widow is to be left all alone, truly alone, at least by a deceased husband. So that means on the date of your anniversary, it comes and goes without a card. The date of your anniversary comes without flowers and without a phone call. But also, another holiday comes and goes, which is Mother's Day. It says in verse 10 that she has brought up children and yet is all alone. So she's devoted to her family, brought up children, and was hardworking in this. She was long-sighted in being a mother, devoted to it. Every mother I know is patient and also brave. Well, why is that? Because life does not come in with any guarantees with regards to your children, and so this mother has lost her children. So it says that she had children, but doesn't have them anymore. So to be a good widow is to first have been a good mother. And then this left all alone in death, first of all, it's by your husband, but also this particular one is left without children. How many of them So children is in the plural, and how many of them have passed? All of them. So to be a good widow is to have been a good wife. To be a good widow is to have been a good mother. To be a good widow is to be marked by tragedy and marked by death. It's this faithful woman is torn both from her husband as well as from her children. So to be a good widow is to be all alone and yet not all alone. She has set her hope on God. She's a believer. She's faithful. She loves God. She is loved by God. Philippians 3:9 says she is found in him. Colossians 3:3, she is hidden in him. And my favorite today, Philippians 3:12, Christ Jesus has made me his own. So the fifth point is to be a good widow, is to be all alone and to be only his own. That is, owned by God. So when tragedy and circumstances and death finds you alone, will you be owned by Christ? So when the sting of death tries to orphan you, it finds you not alone. So the teaching points today is, if you're still married, I think, or pre-married, I think focusing on your attention as a wife or a husband or as a spouse, I think that is an honorable task. To be a good widow is to have loved a husband, love children, be faithful in good works. Verse 10 says, have a reputation for good works. If she's brought up children, shown hospitality. Hospitality is to the other, the foreigner, the needy, the poor, the culturally displaced person, a person who's been faithful in marriage, faithful in bringing up children, faithful in washing the feet of the saints. So that's not just the people outside the church, but also she's not a stranger to the doors of the church, faithful in the afflicted, and this is not her first day in tragedy. So to be a good widow is to be all alone. In a sense, to be a good widow is to have been a good wife. To be a good widow is to be a good mother. To be a good widow is to be marked by tragedy. To be a good widow is to be all alone and not nearly alone. To be a good widow is to be all alone and only his own. A true widow is all alone and not nearly alone. She is owned by God, and she is owned by the people of God. And in so doing today, join me today in honoring widows. Thanks for listening.